Location and nature of Arab tribes, beyond a shadow of doubt. The biography of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, manifestly represents an exhaustive embodiment of the sublime divine message that he communicated in order to deliver the human race from the swamp of darkness and polytheism to the paradise of light and monotheism. An image, authentic as well as comprehensive, of this message is therefore only attainable through careful study and profound analysis of both backgrounds and issues of such a biography. In view of this, a whole chapter is here introduced about the nature and development of Arab tribes prior to Islam, as well as the circumstantial environment that enwrapped the Prophet's mission. Location of the Arabs. Linguistically, the word Arab means deserts and waste barren land, well-nigh waterless and treeless. Ever since the dawn of history, the Arabian Peninsula and its people have been called as such. The Arabian Peninsula is enclosed in the west by the Red Sea and Sinai, in the east by the Arabian Gulf, in the south by the Arabian Sea, which is an extension of the Indian Ocean, and in the north by Old Sham and part of Iraq. The area is estimated between 1 million and 1.25 million square miles. Thanks to its geographical position, the peninsula has always maintained great importance. Considering its internal setting, it is mostly deserts and sandy places, which has rendered it inaccessible to foreigners and invaders, and allowed its people complete liberty and independence through the ages. Despite the presence of two neighboring great empires, its external setting, on the other hand, caused it to be the center of the Old World and provided it with sea and land links with most nations at the time. Thanks to this strategic position, the Arabian Peninsula had become the center for trade, culture, religion, and art. Arab tribes. Arab kinfolks have been divided according to lineage into 3 groups. Perishing Arabs, the ancient Arabs of whose history little is known, and of whom were Ad, Thamud, Tasm, Jadis, Amalek, and others. Pure Arabs, who originated from the progeny of Ya'rub bin Yashjub bin Qahtan. They were also called Qahtaniyun. Arabized Arabs, who originated from the progeny of Ismail. They were also called Adnaniyun. The pure Arabs, the people of Qahtan, originally lived in Yemen and comprised many tribes, 2 of which were very famous. Himyar, the most famous of whose septs were Zayd al-Jumhur, Qakhta'a, and Sekasik. Kahlan, the most famous of whose septs were Hamdan, Anamar, Tayi, Mudhij, Kinda, Lacham, Juzam, Uzdad, Awas, Khagjerij, and the descendants of Jaffna, the kings of Old Sham. Kahlan septs emigrated from Yemen to dwell in the different parts of the Arabian Peninsula prior to the Great Flood, sailed at Arim of Ma'arib Dam. Due to the failure of trade under the Roman pressure and domain on both sea and land trade routes, following Roman occupation of Masar and Sham, naturally enough, the competition between Kahlan and Himyar led to the evacuation of the first and the settlement of the second in Yemen. The emigrating septs of Kahlan can be into 4 groups. Uzdad, who, under the leadership of Imran bin Amru Muzaykiyah, wandered in Yemen, sent pioneers, and finally headed northwards. Details of their emigration can be summed up as follows. Thahalabab bin Amru left his tribe, Azed, for Hijaz and dwelt between Thahalabiya and the Ikar. When he gained strength, he headed for Medina, where he stayed. Of his seed are Awas and Khazraj, sons of Haritha bin Thalaba. Haritha bin Amru, known as Huzaha, wandered with his folks in Hijaz until they came to Marul Dhaharan. Later, they conquered the Haram and settled in Mokkah after having driven away its people, the tribe of Jurhum. Himran bin Amru and his folks went to Amuman, where they established the tribe of Ezdid, whose children inhabited Tihamet and were known as Ezdid Shanua. Jefna bin Amru and his family headed for Sham, where he settled and initiated the kingdom of Ghassan, who was so named after a spring of water. in Hijaz, where they stopped on their way to Sham. Lakham and Judham, of whom was Nasr bin Rabi'a, father of Manadira, kings of Hira, Banu Tayyi, who also emigrated northwards to settle by the so-called Ajah and Selmay mountains, which were consequently named as Tayyi Mountains, Kinda, who dwelt in Bahrain but were expelled to Hadramaut and Nejd, where they instituted a powerful government, but not for long, for the whole tribe soon faded away. Another tribe of Hemyr, known as Qudaha, also left Yemen and dwelt in Samawa semi-desert on the borders of Iraq. The Arabized Arabs go back in ancestry to their great-grandfather Ibrahim, peace and blessings be upon him, from a town called Ari near Kufa on the west bank of the Euphrates in Iraq. Excavations brought to light great details of the town, Ibrahim's family, and the prevalent religions and social circumstances. It is known that Ibrahim, peace and blessings be upon him, left Ari for Haran and then for Philistine, which he made headquarters for his message. He wandered all over the area. When he went to Misr, the Pharaoh tried to do evil to his wife Sarah, but Allah saved her, and the Pharaoh's wicked scheme recoiled on him. He thus came to realize her strong attachment to Allah, and, in acknowledgement of her grace, the Pharaoh rendered his daughter Hajar at Sarah's service. But Sarah gave Hajar to Ibrahim as a wife. Ibrahim returned to Philistine, where Hajar gave birth to Ismail. Sarah became so jealous of Hajar that she forced Ibrahim to send Hajar and her baby away to a plantless valley on a small hill in Hijaz, by the sacred house, exposed to the wearing of floods coming right and left. He chose for them a place under a lofty tree above Zemzem near the upper side of the mosque in Makkah, where neither people nor water was available, and went back to Philistine, leaving with his wife and baby a leather case with some dates and a pot of water. Not before long. They ran out of both food and water, but thanks to Allah's favor, water gushed forth to sustain them for some time. The whole story of Zemzem spring is already known to everybody. Another Yemeni tribe, Jurhum II, came and lived in Makkah upon Hajar's permission, after being said to have lived in the valleys around Makkah. It is mentioned in the Sahih al-Bukhari that this tribe came to Makkah before Ismail was a young man, while they had passed through that valley long before this event. Ibrahim used to go to Makkah every now and then to see his wife and son. The number of these journeys is still unknown, but authentic historical resources spoke of 4 ones. Allah, the Sublime, stated in the noble Quran that he had Ibrahim see, in his dream, that he slaughtered his son Ismail, and therefore Ibrahim stood up to fulfill his order. Then, when they had both submitted themselves to the will of Allah, and he had laid him prostrate on his forehead or on the side of his forehead for slaughtering, and we called out to him, O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the dream, vision. Verily, thus do we reward the al-Muhsinun, good doers, who perform good deeds, totally for Allah's sake only, without any show-off or to gain praise or fame, etc., and do them in accordance to Allah's orders. Verily, that indeed was a manifest trial, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice, i.e., a ram. Verse reference is Quran's chapter number 37, verse 103 to 107. It is mentioned in the Genesis that Ismail was 13 years older than his brother Ishaq. The sequence of the story of the sacrifice of Ismail shows that it really happened before Ishaq's birth, and that Allah's promise to give Ibrahim another son, Ishaq, came after narration of the whole story. This story spoke of one journey, at least, before Ismail became a young man. Bukhari, on the authority of Ibn Abbas, reported the other 3 journeys, a summary of which goes as follows. When Ismail became a young man, he learned Arabic at the hand of the tribe of Jurhum, who loved him with great admiration and gave him one of their women as a wife soon after his mother died. Having wanted to see his wife and son again, Ibrahim came to Mecca after Ismail's marriage, but he didn't find him at home. He asked Ismail's wife about her husband and how they were doing. She complained of poverty, So he asked her to tell Ismail to change his doorstep. Ismail understood the message, divorced his wife and got married to the daughter of Mudats bin Amru, chief of the tribe of Jurhum. Once more, Ibrahim came to see his son, but again didn't find him at home. He asked his new wife the same previous question, to which she thanked Allah. Ibrahim asked her to tell Ismail to keep his doorstep, i.e. to keep her as wife, and went back to Philistine. A third time, Ibrahim came to Makkah to find Ismail sharpening an arrow under a lofty tree near Zemzem. The meeting, after a very long journey of separation, was very touching for a father so affectionate and a son so dutiful and righteous. This time, father and son built Kaaba and raised its pillars, and Ibrahim, in compliance with Allah's commandment, called unto people to make pilgrimage to it. By the grace of Allah, Ismail had 12 sons from the daughter of Mudad, whose names were Nabit, Gaidar, Idbil, Mibsham, Mishma, Dumat, Micha, Hedad, Yethma, Yithur, Nafish, and Kaidaman, and who ultimately formed 12 tribes inhabiting Makkah and trading between Yemen, geographical Sham, and Musra. Later on, these tribes spread all over, and even outside the peninsula, all their tidings went into oblivion, except for the descendants of Nabit and Kaidar. The Nabatiyun, sons of Nabit, established a flourishing civilization in the north of Hejaz. They instituted a powerful government which spread out its domain over all neighboring tribes and made Batara their capital. Nobody dared challenge their authority until the Romans came and managed to eliminate their kingdom. After extensive research and painstaking investigation, Mr. Sulayman and Nedwi came to the conclusion that the Ghassani kings, along with the Awus and Khazaraj, were not likely to be Qahtaniyin, but rather Nabatiyun, descendants of Kaidar. The son of Ismail lived long in Mocha, increasing in number. Of them issued Adnan and son Ma'atte, to whom Adnaniyun traced back their ancestry. Adnan is the 21st grandfather in the series of the prophetic ancestry. It was said that whenever Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke of his ancestry, he would stop at Adnan and say, "Genealogists tell lies," and did not go farther than him. A group of scholars, however, favored the probability of going beyond Adnan, attaching no significance to the aforementioned prophetic hadith. They went on to say that there were exactly 40 fathers between Adnan and Ibrahim, peace be upon them. Nizar, Mad's only son, had 4 sons who branched out into 4 great tribes, Iyad, Anmar, Rabia, and Mudar. These last 2 sub-branched into several septs. Rabia fathered Asad, Anza, Abd al-Qais, and Wail's 2 sons, Bakr and Taghlib, Hanifa, and many others. Mudar tribes branched out into 2 great divisions, Qais Ailan bin Mudar and septs of Ilyas bin Mudar. Of Qais Ailan were the Banu Sulaym, Banu Hawazin, and Banu Ghatafan, of whom descended Abes, Dhub'an, Ashja, and Ghani bin Asur. Of Ilyas bin Mudar were Tamim bin Murra, Hudhail bin Mudrika, Banu Asad bin Huzaima, and septs of Kinana bin Huzaima, of whom came Quraysh, the descendants of Fihr bin Malik bin Nadr bin Kinana. Quraysh branched out into various tribes, the most famous of whom were Juma, Saham, Yadi, Makhzum, Taym, Zuhra, and the 3 septs of Qusay bin Kilab, Abd-Dar bin Qusay, Asad bin Abd al-Uzza bin Qusay, and Abd Manaf bin Qusay. Habad Manaf branched out into 4 tribes, Abd Shams, Nofel, Alamutla, and Hashim. It is, however, from the family of Hashim that Allah selected Prophet Muhammad bin Abd Allah bin Abd al-Muttalib bin Hashim, peace and blessings be upon him. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Allah selected Ismail from the sons of Ibrahim, Kinana from the sons of Ismail, Quraysh from the sons of Kinana, Hashim from the sons of Quraysh, and he selected me from the sons of Hashim. Al-Abbas bin Abd al-Muttalib quoted the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, as saying, Allah created mankind and chose me from the best whereof. He chose the tribes and selected me from the best whereof, and he chose families and selected me from the best whereof. I am the very best in person and family, having increased in number, children of Adnan, in pursuit of pastures and water, spread out over various parts of Arabia. The tribe of Abd al-Qais, together with some septs of Bakr bin Wa'il and Tamim, emigrated to Bahrain, where they dwelt. Banu Hanifa bin Sa'b bin Ali bin Bakr went to settle in Hajar, the capital of Yamama. All the tribes of Bakr bin Wa'il lived in an area of land which included Yamama, Bahrain, Saif, Kadhima, the seashore, the outer borders of Iraq, Ubullah, and Hiyat. Most of the tribe of Taghlib lived in the Euphrates area, while some of them lived with Bakr. Banu Tamim lived in Basrat semi-desert. Banu Sulaym lived in the vicinity of Medina on the land stretching from Wadi al-Qura to Khaybar onwards to the eastern mountains to Hahrata. Thaqif dwelt in Taif, and Hawazin east of Mecca near Altas on the road from Mecca to Basra. Banu Asad lived on the land east of Taymah and west of Kufa, while family of Ta'i lived between Banu Asad and Taymah. They were 5-day walk far from Kuvat. Dhubian inhabited the plot of, and between Taymah and Hawran. Some septs of Kinana lived in Tihama, while septs of Quraysh dwelt in Mekkat and its suburbs. Quraysh remained completely disunited until Qusay bin Kilab managed to rally their ranks on honorable terms, attaching major prominence to their status and importance.